Hi guys, welcome back. So I've seen a lot of comments asking me what to do with the Chinese education stocks like TAL, EDU, YQ, etc. And also because the crash on Friday was basically driven by the education sector. So a lot of people built a distrust, a hate towards the Chinese stocks and the CCP. So I also want to share some of my opinion on that. I don't think anyone would know what's going to happen to the whole education sector right now, but I'm going to give out my own point of view, my personal opinion anyways. So TAL dropped 70% at the closing on Friday. I think that is beyond anyone's imagination, including myself. I had no more position on TAL anymore. I've sold it on this day, June 24, when I said I would set the stop profit limit for TAL at 25 for the rest of my shares. June 24 was on this day when it rose to 26 and my cost was 20.7 on this day. But I did have some call options left and it ended up triggering the stop loss. I sold it not because I thought there is no future for education sector in China and there is no way I would expect this black swan to happen. In this video I did last week, 3 rules to buy Chinese stocks when the storm is ahead of us. I share my way of thinking when it comes to investing in Chinese stocks in the political storm right now is very important to align with the government's strategy. And I gave examples like carbon neutrality, chips development, one Belt One Road, and brand export. And basically, with the political storm going on, all of these companies related are beaten down and quite undervalued still. So yes, I am taking the risk to pick up the bargains of Chinese stocks when they follow these rules I gave out because I think they would eventually go back to the fair valuation. And all of them are still at a bargain to pick up. So that's why I wanted to focus more on the sectors that the government really encourages and would try their best to push forward. So that was the reason why I took profit on TAL. They all came down because the rumors saying China may force tutoring firms to go non-profit and block them from going public. This move would decimate the 100 billion industry. And this is an article from Bloomberg. The company TAL gave out a PR and said that right now everything is still rumor. They don't have any notification from the government yet, so they cannot give out any response to that. I did not pick up any shares on the education sector because I think I want to wait for the actual thing to come out to see further. And also rumors don't come from nothing usually, so there might be part of it that's true. And this is the news that came out on July 24th, yesterday. The most important is number 13. So all the institutions about academic tutoring would be all registered as non-profit organization. And none of these organizations can raise funds or get invested by the public market. And foreign investment cannot basically acquire or invest in any kind of these academic institutions. So seeing this news from the government officially, you probably would think that if you have TAL or EDU's shares, they should be worthless if you still own any of their shares. And for anyone who have not bought in yet, they are anxiously whether they should invest in them now to pick up the bargains. For this very much unexpected black swan, I don't think anyone could give you an answer for that, but I will share my personal point of view on this issue. So this is all about the academic tutoring, so the K-12, from grade 1 to grade 12. In terms of the academic, anything that is within the content from the school. So K-12, non-profit organization. So that's why it would affect the companies that focus more on the K-12, which is what had been growing the fastest in the recent years. TAL started from the K-12 business and their core business still is mainly focused on K-12. EDU includes K-12 and also English study because they started from English study long time ago, maybe 20-30 years ago, and helping students to get prepared for their English level so then they can study abroad. So K-12 is not the main business, but it is the sector that grew the most recently. And YQ is the smaller version of TAL, but online classes mostly that also focus on the K-12. Now, a month ago, I did point out the possibility about the government incorporating this kind of tutoring program into the public education system. So incorporate the private business into the public education system, and company like TAL would be the perfect choice for that. the video I did on June 18. In this video, I gave out the possibility for the government to incorporate public and private education for the academic studies to significantly lower the cost of the K-12 studies, to give less pressure for the kids and parents, but also to develop more comprehensive talents instead of the exam-driven machines. By that, they can work with the big institutions for private tutoring, like TAL, the big ones, and also to limit significantly the numbers of these kind of institutions. And we can see the new policy is really also about restricting the license granted for these kind of institutions. It means it's quite valuable to get a license to begin with, because the ones who wants to get a license later would be simply nearly impossible. And for the strategy of the government about the comprehensive talents, I also gave my point of view in the video on May 25th. There's more than that, as we know that China had been growing the economy faster and faster in the recent years. And when a country growing this fast from a very raw foundation, the first step is to grow economy. And once economy is up, there would be still a lot of other things to be solved. Like, for example, the culture may not catch up with the speed of the economy growth, and culture comes from education a lot. That's why I said before that I thought education in China still has a long way to go, a lot of room to improve. And I really think it is quite necessary for the country to grow or refine the culture development. And I really think right now at this stage, it's quite natural and necessary to pay attention to more cultural development, more refinement that can grow the Chinese unique cultural identity instead of importing a lot of the cultural icons from the West. And very importantly, increase the level of creativity from the youth. And this would be the next strong source of talent to back up the new technology they want to develop in the next coming decade. If this is what they're thinking, then it would make very much sense for the government to regulate academic education to limit the amount of stress on the academic education. And this would again align with the strategy of the country in the longer term. So for this reason, I share my point of view about what the CEO should do about these changes, the new demand of the need of talents from China. Actually, when it comes to difficult times, because this is when you should consider whether you believe in this CEO, whether he can evolve his business based on the new environment, the new demand, or the new trend. And I think if it's the same CEO to remain in the position, the founder, I think eventually he might be able to adapt to the new trend and understand why the government encourage more cultural or creativity education. And hopefully he can adapt to this demand and evolve or refine his business model or classes or product in order to continue his success from before. Because at least he has got the customer base. They are usually loyal and would likely follow from primary school to middle school to high school if they agree with this business. So this would really depend on whether the CEO can continue to innovate and adapt to the new trend or work around the policy. And last, so it's very important to understand the government's strategy as a macro perspective, and then it would be easier to understand why the government do certain things and what would they do in the future. But of course, I did not expect the government would turn all these organizations non-profit, but I did expect them to have some kind of mass purchase to sign the deal with some major organizations like TAL, EDU, the few major ones to kind of combine the private service with the public education. So then it's a B2B business instead of facing individual parents, because it would be the school leading to this after-school program. And of course, the government would not pay as big of the fee like how they used to deal with parents. So then the parents don't need to pay so much for these kind of programs. So that was what I thought before. Right now, I think it might still be like this, but they have given it a title on top of that to be non-profit, so very, very strict. So what does that mean to TAL? And my opinion is that yes, it looks very, very bad, but I don't think it's the end of the world if you have the shares for TAL. And I'll explain. I think right now there are two choices for them. One, take the company private, so then it's not invested by the foreign investment anymore. Whatever they are doing for the policy changes would not affect the foreign investments, would not affect Chinese stocks anymore after this. Maybe the government purchased the company, maybe not. But in this case, they would need to buy back the shares that had gone public from the stock investors at a relatively fair value. Could be the 30% increase from the average trading price for the last certain period of time. It's just an example I give based on the case studies I read from before. when the companies are taken public to private. And the second choice is for them to divide the company into a few sub-brands. And I think this is the choice I would make if I am the CEO of TAL, is to have many sub-brands to separate the businesses. And for sure, the K-12 studies would be a complete different sector. This would be a company that has a B2B or B2G business model, so business to government. So this business, they don't make much money. They sell the courses, the program to the government for many schools and allow a lot of kids to join the learning program for a very low cost, and they don't make money with this division. But instead, because tens of millions of kids would grow its dependency and trust on the brand TAL, and parents would trust it more because it's backed by the government, it's officially used by the government for so many kids already. So they have built a trust so they can use it to develop the other subdivisions where they can focus more on the new areas of studies like culture and creativity. And what the country needs the most right now, IT, engineer kind of program from early stage. Right now, China is entering a prime decade. In Chinese, we would call it the golden 10 years. Expect things to explode from here. And with all the technology growing at a very fast speed, crossing each other's, pushing everything to grow exponentially. And right now, China is entering a demand of talent very much. It needs massive amounts of talent. And this demand is only going stronger and stronger. This is why China is also in an urgency to reform the education system. So whoever can take advantage of this trend will be able to revolutionize the education industry. So this is what I would do if I were the CEO of TAL, because it still has the brand asset, millions and millions of users, trust, experience, and care from the government, because I'm sure it's not the intention for the government to destroy an industry. Right now, China is in strong need of engineers, strong need of creative talents. If TAL can contribute into this to make more kids interested into engineering at early stage, can help younger kids discover their level of creativity and help them guide their future career path. This would be a big contribution to the country, and the whole situation would be completely reversed. I mean, just look at Friday. TAL dropped 70%, EDU dropped 54%, Go2 dropped 63%. But on the other side, this company, AACG, ATA Creativity Global, had increased 24%, because this is a Chinese education institutions that focus more on the cultural study into developing creativity. This is a share from one of the comments from MJR asking me why this educational stocks actually increased. Thank you for sharing that, because it was not under my radar before, but it really had helped confirm my belief that this is the direction that's changing the industry, not the destroy of an industry. For anyone who can seize the opportunity at a fast speed to be the next winner ahead of anyone. The smart money knows where to go. When one thing is down, it's the rise of another thing. It's not the government that hates Chinese companies. It's really, we need to realize the trend of the industry. We need to realize the strategy of the government. Even this stock I pointed out on Friday morning, it was 7.6 and it already closed 8% above that. Why are people buying the dip? Why are the money buying the dip of this company? Because this company is aligning with the new demand. Because of this disaster of the education sector, a lot of people think, why do Chinese people hate Chinese company and cracking down on the big techs, their own companies? Why do they do that? It's so stupid. I see so many comments yelling at the Chinese government, and I feel like I have to say something and share my own point of view, because I don't think we should trust everything that the media is saying and portraying the Chinese government. And in many ways, I think it's actually the opposite of what's really happening in China. You cannot take what happened with Didi and think that it would reflect on all the other companies. If you want to know what I think about Didi and why the government is cracking down on them. You can watch my previous video when I said the Didi's ban is worse than ever, much worse than what happened to Baba and Ant Group. And this is a special case really, so you cannot use this and think that that the Chinese government treats every other company the same. Right now the government is cracking down on a lot of the big techs because the tactics they were using before were slowing down a lot of the medium and small caps companies for them to grow, because they can anytime copy the innovation from these small caps and do the same thing but with much better resource, and it would discourage the speed of innovation there. So this is actually a good thing to encourage a lot of the medium small caps to grow and be more creative and continue the innovation. But at the same time, the Chinese government is also working a lot closer to the big tech company than 10 years ago. Right now, the BAT, Baidu, Tencent, Alibaba are working a lot on the big projects for the government, for the smart cities, and actually include these guys in part of the discussions about shaping the future cities. So if the government really hates the big techs or the Chinese companies, then why are they giving them so much freedom and businesses to shape the future cities? And I bet you cannot see any of this in the Western media because they're only reporting negative things. Another example is the WIMI. The share price had been dropping every day. A lot of people feel very frustrated and no hope for this, but I still believe the AR technology would be incorporated in the smart cities plan. Coming back to the video 5 months ago, my opinion stayed the same about smart city. How this model is being created in China somewhere, including autonomous drive, EV, drone, new retail, smart home, IoT, Internet of Things, wearable device, AR technology, all together forming the smart city ecosystem and be carried out by the huge project of One Belt, One Road. This is my strongest belief in my investment and everything towards this direction, and has never changed throughout all these months. I expect this to happen in 5 to 10 years, but I think it might happen faster than I expected originally. Right now, my company in China is partnering up with an AI company to participate in one of the city's project to apply a lot of the AR technology on the street. We will provide the creative and they would provide the technology. It's not WIMI, obviously, but it just makes me more convinced that it's already happening faster than I expect. The government has really big plan on the new technologies and the applications. So I don't trust what the media is describing the environment in China, because it's not true at all. It's the opposite of what I see. To me, whatever that's happening, sure, the geopolitical issue, the fight between US and China is what I really didn't want to see, but at most I said it's a slowdown, but it cannot stop China from the fast growing right now. So I would say it's 30% bad things happening and 70% good things. And 30% is from the politics, the fight between US and China. So mostly good things happening because it's good for the medium to small caps to grow, to have more innovation. And it's also good for the BAT because they're entering a prime time for technology. And the technology would shape how future live for the next few years. Massive trend happening. The BAT, the tech giants are entering into a boom. So many people are telling the evil things about the CCP, the Chinese companies, the Chinese government. And I'm sorry, I think that it's immature to think the Chinese government hates Chinese companies. So if you believe in what the media is telling you, I think you would regret this years later. Just think about why the US is in such a hurry to crack down China, to slow down China, and they are in a hurry to do that. They have the urgency to do that because of how fast China is growing, and the US is worried that if they don't do it fast enough, they would lose the advantage to be the number one, and if US loses the number one position, they would lose the biggest advantage and lose many cards to play against China. But so far, whatever cards or tactics they're using on China has somehow backfired, and it's not working, seems like. So that's it for what I want to show you today, and if you have enjoyed this video, please give me a big like and write me a great comment, and I will see you in my next video. That's it guys, hope you can find my videos helpful. Make sure you subscribe to my channel and give me a big like. Thank you.